Life is precious, and we all have the opportunity of living it to the fullest. Unfortunately, so few of us know how to manage it all. How do we account for our opportunities? How do we account for our time? How do we account for our relationships, health, spirituality, homes, finances, influence, and careers? How do we account for the one life we have to live? I am so glad you asked. In this program, you will find answers to all of these questions and more. Welcome to the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore.
What's happening, everybody? What's going on? I want to welcome you back to another episode of the Account for Your Life podcast. This is Jay Moore, the healthy accountant, helping you to account for your life. Guys, what an awesome and incredible November morning. It is the 2nd, and man, we are getting, I'm getting chills just thinking about how close we are to a new year. And the fact that I remember when January started. I remember when the transformation was not even realized, and we didn't know what transformation looked like. But we've gotten here, day number 306 podcast, probably number 300 out of 306 for the year. So we're just super excited about you and about everything we're doing. Guys, look, I've gotten an announcement today, but here's what we're talking about. We're talking about lessons learned from taking action. And why is inaction so popular? Like, seriously, I think I heard someone say procrastination is the biggest nation. And so I'm sure I've had my share of procrastination. I'm going to share that with you because if I have lessons that I've learned, that I also have, light to expose, right? I got to expose myself. That's what we talked about yesterday, the light of exposure and how that works in your life. And so today, that's what we're going to go into. But before we do that, I've got an announcement. The announcement is, we posted yesterday where we're moving into something new. It's called the Good Accounting Challenge. And this Good Accounting Challenge is not what you think. Like, the Good Accounting Challenge, even though it says accounting, it's something that I believe that purpose-driven leaders and business owners and aspiring business owners, you could even be a ministry leader. You could be someone who's trying to connect the dots between purpose and business, and you're not quite sure how to do that. You've been probably told to keep them separate. And if that's the case, then that's why I created the Good Accounting Challenge, and you can get there at thegoodaccountingchallenge.com. Here's even better news. You could join the challenge for absolutely no money. It doesn't cost any money to join the challenge. So go to goodaccountingchallenge.com so you can join today, because the challenge will be starting on November the 14th. It's a 5-day challenge. We're going to have a super and incredible time just kind of going through connecting purposes with businesses, birthing new businesses because of this challenge. So, man, I'm super excited. Let's jump right into today's learning, which is lessons learned from taking action. So I thought about this, and I thought about a story. I was listening to my mentor, Dr. Miles, and he reminded me of someone who took action. And he was reminding me of the story of Abraham. You familiar with Abraham? Abraham did not know he had a purpose. Guys, look, Abraham was just like many of us. He did not know he had a purpose. He was living his life. He was doing okay. And, he probably he already had land, family owned land. He was in the land. He was doing his thing. And man, oh man, the only thing he was missing, there was only one thing missing in his life. Abraham was not young. So the fact that he did not have any children was probably significant. His name's Abraham, but his name originally was Abram, right? And in the Hebrew, Abram means high father. So you got to check this out. You think his purpose is to be a father, and he's not a father. So you got to think he probably had some issues with his name. People probably could have potentially ridiculed his name. We're talking about Abraham here. People could have potentially ridiculed his name, which was Abram. And they probably was like, yo, Abram, dude, your name is High Father and you have no kids and your wife is old. So it doesn't look like you're going to fulfill your purpose. Now, what did Abram do? Nothing, because he couldn't do anything. His wife was barren. But here's what happened. Then that's when purpose showed up. God showed up in his life, all of a sudden, called him into something new. What did he call him into? He called him into his purpose. He says, Abram, I want you to leave your country. I want you to go somewhere else because I'm going to make you a great nation. So wait a second. So God enticed Abram into something that he was like, wait a second. You telling me I'm going to be a great nation? You're telling me there's going to be seed after my kind? You're telling me there's going to be people in my line? You're telling me? Abram believed something that didn't make any sense. So, when I look at the lessons, that I've had from taking action, the lessons that I've had from not taking, or when I looked at inaction and doing something slow, and I look at Abraham, I don't know how long it took Abraham to make that decision to leave his country, but it doesn't matter. He did it. So one of the like I'm not going to give you that yet. One of the first lessons is that, check this out. It feels better when you're done. It feels better when you know that you did what you were called to do, which Abram was called to leave, and he left. So he probably felt better, just the fact that he did it, and now he doesn't have to look back. So when I look at my own personal life, and even something like the Good Accounting Challenge that you see running across the bottom, goodaccountingchallenge.com, where we're helping purpose-driven leaders and business owners, aspiring leaders, people who may be trying to connect. You're trying to connect what you're doing. You're trying to connect with that calling. And you're like, oh, how do I do that? When you finally do it, it's like a weight comes off. Like when I finally shipped it, they say when you finish something, it's shipped. When I finally shipped it yesterday, I said, finally, the funnel's done. But you know what? I had a feeling something was off. And, a good friend of mine, she reminded me, she says, hey, Jay, you may want to check this, which was cool. I had the dates off a couple places, and picture was wrong and something was, but I said, you know what? It's better to know that I did it. See, because what if I never do it? What if I never did it? What if, I think I've done I think this would be my 14th challenge. Number 14. What if I never did one? I wouldn't have any experience on it. I wouldn't have the next thing. I wouldn't have any confidence. I wouldn't have any confidence of anything. Because you think about it like this, when you do something, what happens is all of a sudden you get confidence. Like 300 podcasts later this year, like it's day 306, but we did about 300 podcasts. I come up with topics faster. I actually designed them faster. I've been creating thumbnails for the pod. I've been doing things that I wasn't doing before. And now I'm like, that's interesting. What happened? Well, you kept doing it. And then what happens is you keep doing it. Then all of a sudden, see, inaction. The thing about inaction, where a lot of us get listen, I have my days of inaction. I have plenty of days. I could look back and say, man, I didn't do something yesterday. Man, I should have recorded that video last night. Right? I should have got up this morning when my body started messing with me at 3:00 in the morning. I should have just got up. And I didn't get up. And then what happened is I was like, man, I just want to get the last couple of hours of sleep. I want to sleep a little bit too long. I want to be, and I'm like salty. I'm like, man, this is whack. This is not good. The fact that I want to sleep a little bit too long. Still got up in the 6:00 hour. I normally get up in the 6 o'clock hour. I'm just like, come on. But it gives me confidence. But what inaction does, think about what inaction does. Think about not taking action. It's almost like, what happens is you learn where you're weak. You're like, oh shoot, I am so weak in this area. Like I'm weak in a lot of areas, to be honest. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you're not gifted. I'm not gifted at everything. I'm not gifted at funnels. I'm not gifted. I'll do them. I'm not gifted at them. I'm not gifted at writing emails, but I'll write the emails. I'm not gifted at sales, but I will learn as much as I can, to have conversations so that I can make sales. Certain things I'm not gifted at, but that doesn't mean you don't do them. Now, at some point, when you make enough money, what happens? You never have to do what you're weak at. But before, and that's the thing about your purpose, right? Your purpose as a purpose-driven leader, you have to move fast towards it. Because listen, what happened to Abraham? Abraham, at the end, it was almost like this guy became wealthy. He moved towards his purpose, and all of a sudden he had land, he had cattle, he had staff, he had everything. He was rich. I don't know how long it took, doesn't matter. How like if you knew that in 10 years you would be a billionaire, you would not care how it happened. If God is calling us to purpose, I can't worry about where I'm weak. I will have to address it. Like you may have to address where you're weak. I have to address it, but I don't have to be weak. Now here's what taking action also does. It gives me an opportunity to test some things. It gives me the chance to say, you know what, I never tried that before. I remember when I first started the Good Accounting Challenge. This was earlier this year. I started the Good Accounting Challenge. I was on the coaching call. My mentor was like, hey, but I called it the Good Accounting Challenge. And he was just like, he says, Jay, that's a really big idea. But the thing is, I didn't test that, but I'm going to tell you what I did test. I tested 2 other challenges. I did them both twice. I tested the Make Money Now Challenge for realtors, and I tested the Rainmaker Challenge from Bean County, the Rainmaker Challenge for accountants. And what I tested was the content. I tested developing this idea, and here's what happened. What birthed out of those 2 challenges was the Good Accounting Challenge. But that's the thing. So a lot of times, we don't do something. We find out we're weak. But if we just go towards it, doesn't mean you have to stay there. It will give us an opportunity. It gave me an opportunity to test new things. And by testing new things, it was awesome and it was incredible. I'm like, oh my goodness, because here's the thing. At the end of the day, it gets me closer to where I desire to be. Let me ask you a question. Where is it that you desire to be? Where do I desire to be? And I desire to, one, go to where I've been called. What's going on, Brittany? How are you? I've desired to go to where I've been called. And because I've decided to go to where I've been called, then that means that all of these things, like realizing that it feels better, it feels way better to do it than to not do it. It feels better to be confident than not to be confident. It feels better to know where I'm weak, and it feels better to say, you know what, I tested some things. Because at the end of the day, it gets me closer to where I desire to be. Look, as a purpose-driven entrepreneur, purpose-driven business owner, and I wasn't always this. It's interesting as I get ready to close here. It's interesting how you get to where it is that you like to be. It's interesting. And I say that because, how can I explain this? I never knew that I would actually have what I'm using right now as my platform. I never knew that. See, because when God calls us, you have no clue. Like Abraham did not have a clue. Really, where he was going, God just told him what the result would be. God says, hey, I'm calling you out of your country because I'm going to give you a country. But he didn't tell him exactly where the country was. He didn't tell him how the country was going to be his. He didn't give him any of those details. He just says, hey, this is the result I got for you. And that's what God does. He gives us the result and then makes us go through the process. And by going through the process, and God is not like, hey, if you decide it takes you 10 years, that's fine. But what if there was a way? My mentor, somehow he does things fast. Then that means that I have to learn that art. And I think that's the next phase of my life, learning the art of fast. So guys, here's what you can take away from today. Look, I've learned lessons by taking some small actions, right? And you too can learn these lessons because it feels better when it's done. It'll give you confidence. You'll learn where you are weak. Doesn't mean that you stay there. It gives you an opportunity to test new things, and it gets you closer to where you and I already desire to be. And if that's the case, then that means that the next step is to let's start running. Let's run towards our dreams. Like Les Brown says, run towards our dreams, because when we run towards our dreams, we get there faster. Guys, I want to thank you for joining me for another episode of the I AFYL Podcast. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, go check us out on YouTube, The Healthy Accountant, and subscribe there. Make sure you smash the notification icon. If you're on Facebook, make sure you like and share this post. Let other purpose-driven entrepreneurs know that there's a place where they can find what they can just start learning step by step. Guys, we got 300 episodes in 2022. Just an amazing feat. I've never done that many episodes in 1 year, but you know what? God is working with us. And if he's working with me, I know he's working with you as well. So I thank you for joining me for this episode. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. God bless. Peace.
Thanks for joining us, listening friends. We are so glad you invested this time with us. Always remember, you only have one life to live, so live it to the fullest. This has been the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore. Until next time, make it a great day.